Ever wondered why happiness seems so elusive? The audiobook, How to Be Happy, Critical Thinking Strategies for Lasting Joy, has the answers. Discover how to cultivate genuine, lasting happiness using the power of critical thinking. Learn to reframe limiting beliefs, challenge cognitive biases, and make decisions that align with your true self. Don't settle for fleeting pleasures. Unlock the secrets to enduring fulfillment and resilience. Your journey to a more joyful, meaningful life starts here. Before we go on, I invite you to download the free bundle, which contains the ebook version of this book and an executive summary of all the chapters with the key takeaways. Studies show that engaging with content through multiple formats significantly enhances learning and retention. Click on the first link in the description to claim your free bundle now and maximize your learning potential. Now it's free, but it won't be for long, so make sure to grab it while you can. Chapter 1: Clarity. In the pursuit of happiness, we often find ourselves chasing fleeting pleasures or external validation, mistaking momentary highs for lasting joy. But what if the key to true happiness lies not in these short-lived experiences, but in a deeper understanding of what truly brings us fulfillment? This chapter is your first step towards unraveling the complex tapestry of happiness, helping you distinguish between temporary pleasures and enduring satisfaction. Imagine standing at a crossroads, faced with countless paths promising happiness. Some are brightly lit, offering instant gratification, the latest gadget, a night of indulgence, or the rush of social media likes. Others are less obvious, winding through experiences of personal growth, meaningful relationships, and self-discovery. Which path leads to genuine, lasting happiness? The answer isn't always clear, but with the right tools and perspective, you can navigate this terrain with confidence. Let's start by defining what happiness really means. It's a term we use frequently, yet its true essence often eludes us. Happiness isn't just a fleeting emotion or a constant state of excitement. Rather, it's a deep sense of contentment and fulfillment that persists even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. It's not about having a perfect life or feeling elated every moment. Instead, true happiness is about finding meaning, purpose, and satisfaction in your daily experiences and overall life journey. To understand happiness more clearly, it's helpful to contrast it with what it isn't. Happiness isn't just material success. Having the biggest house or the most expensive car doesn't guarantee a joyful life. It's not about constant entertainment or avoiding all negative emotions. In fact, a life devoid of challenges or negative experiences can lead to boredom and a lack of personal growth. Real happiness often coexists with other emotions, including occasional sadness or frustration. It's the underlying current of contentment that allows us to weather life's storms with resilience and grace. One crucial distinction in our quest for happiness is understanding the difference between joy and pleasure. Pleasure is often intense but short-lived. It's the burst of excitement you feel when buying something new, the taste of your favorite dessert, or the thrill of winning a game. These experiences are certainly enjoyable and have their place in a balanced life. However, they're typically fleeting and often leave us wanting more. Joy, on the other hand, runs deeper. It's the warm glow of satisfaction after completing a challenging project, the sense of connection during a heartfelt conversation with a friend, or the peace that comes from aligning your actions with your values. While pleasures are often externally driven and temporary, joys tend to resonate longer and contribute more significantly to our overall sense of well-being. Consider the last time you experienced a hedonic hit, perhaps a shopping spree or a night of binge-watching your favorite show. How did you feel immediately after? Now, how did you feel a day or a week later? Often, these pleasure-driven experiences provide a quick boost but leave little lasting impact on our happiness. In some cases, they might even lead to feelings of emptiness or regret, especially if they conflict with our longer-term goals or values. In contrast, think about a time when you achieved a personal goal, helped someone in need, or engaged in an activity that challenged you to grow. While these experiences might not always provide the same immediate rush as pleasure-seeking activities, they often leave us with a lingering sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. This is the essence of eudaimonic happiness, a state of well-being that comes from living in accordance with one's true self and realizing one's potential. The concept of hedonic adaptation explains why relying solely on pleasures for happiness is a flawed strategy. Our brains are remarkably adaptable, quickly getting used to new positive circumstances or possessions. That new car you were so excited about? After a few months, it's just your regular mode of transportation. The promotion you worked hard for, once the initial excitement wears off, it becomes your new normal. This doesn't mean these achievements aren't valuable, but it does highlight why constantly chasing the next big thing isn't a reliable path to lasting happiness. Understanding hedonic adaptation is crucial because it pushes us to look beyond quick fixes and fleeting pleasures. It encourages us to invest in sources of joy that don't diminish with repetition, things like personal growth, meaningful relationships, and activities that align with our core values. These are the wellsprings of lasting happiness that can sustain us through life's ups and downs. One of the most insidious traps on the path to genuine happiness is the pursuit of social approval. In today's hyper-connected world, it's all too easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation through likes, shares, and external accolades. We might choose careers, hobbies, or even partners based on how they'll be perceived by others, rather than how truly fulfilling they are to us. The problem with this approach is twofold. First, it places our happiness in the hands of others, making it inherently unstable. When we rely on external validation for our sense of worth and happiness, we're at the mercy of others' opinions and reactions. This can lead to a constant state of anxiety and insecurity, always wondering if we're measuring up to some external standard. Secondly, chasing approval often leads us away from our authentic selves. We might suppress our true interests or values to fit in, leading to a disconnect between our outward actions and our inner desires. This misalignment can result in a deep sense of dissatisfaction, even if we're receiving the approval we thought we wanted. To break free from this trap, we need to shift our focus from being liked to liking ourselves. This doesn't mean becoming selfish or ignoring others' feelings entirely. Rather, it's about developing a strong sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on constant external validation. When we learn to validate ourselves, to acknowledge our efforts, celebrate our successes, even small ones, and treat ourselves with compassion, we build a more stable foundation for happiness. This shift towards internal validation requires critical thinking and self-reflection. It involves questioning our motivations. Are we pursuing this goal because it truly aligns with our values, or because we think it will impress others? Are we avoiding an activity we enjoy because we're afraid of judgment? By examining our choices through this lens, we can start to align our actions more closely with our authentic selves. Authenticity is a powerful contributor to lasting happiness. When we act in ways that are true to our values and interests, we experience a sense of congruence and integrity that boosts our overall well-being. This doesn't mean every authentic choice will be easy or immediately rewarding. Sometimes, being true to ourselves might mean going against the grain or facing temporary discomfort. However, the long-term benefits to our happiness and self-esteem are often worth the short-term challenges. To help navigate the complex landscape of happiness, it's useful to develop a personal framework, a set of criteria against which you can evaluate activities, goals, and choices. This happiness criteria checklist can serve as a practical tool for making decisions that align with your pursuit of lasting joy. Start by defining what criteria are most important for your personal definition of happiness. Some examples might include meaningfulness. Does this activity or goal contribute to a sense of purpose in my life? Alignment with values. Is this choice consistent with my core beliefs and principles? Long-term benefit. Will this decision contribute positively to my life in the long run? Personal growth. Does this challenge me to learn, improve, or expand my capabilities? Authenticity. Is this true to who I am rather than who I think I should be? Does this foster genuine relationships or a sense of belonging? Once you've established your criteria, You can use this checklist to analyze activities, goals, or decisions. For instance, if you're considering a career change, you might ask, does this new path align with my values? Will it provide opportunities for growth? Does it feel authentic to who I am? By systematically evaluating your choices against these criteria, you're more likely to make decisions that contribute to lasting happiness rather than just momentary satisfaction. This framework isn't about making every decision perfect or overthinking every choice. Rather, it's a tool to help you become more intentional about how you invest your time and energy. By regularly referring to your happiness criteria, you can gradually steer your life in a direction that's more aligned with what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. To put these concepts into practice, let's engage in a personal happiness audit. This exercise will help you apply critical thinking to your own life experiences and start identifying patterns in what truly contributes to your happiness. Begin by listing recent activities or moments that made you feel happy. Include a mix of experiences, from small daily pleasures to more significant events. Next to each item, note whether it was a short-term pleasure or a deeper joy. For example, bought a new outfit, short-term pleasure. Had a deep conversation with a close friend. Received a lot of likes on a social media post, short-term pleasure. Completed a challenging work project, deep joy. Binge-watched a new TV series, short-term pleasure. Volunteered at a local charity. Now, evaluate each of these experiences. How long did the happiness last? Did it lead to any positive changes or growth in your life? Be honest in your assessment. The goal isn't to judge your choices, but to understand them better. As you reflect on this list, you might notice patterns. Perhaps the items you labeled as deep joys tend to have a more lasting impact on your mood and overall sense of well-being. Maybe some of the short-term pleasures, while enjoyable in the moment, didn't contribute much to your happiness beyond a brief high. The next step is to identify one short-term pleasure that you frequently rely on for a happiness boost. It could be something like checking social media when you're bored, online shopping, or snacking when you're not really hungry. Now, challenge yourself to think of a more fulfilling alternative. For instance, instead of scrolling through social media, you could text a friend to have a real conversation. Or rather than impulse buying, you could put that money towards a meaningful experience or a long-term goal. Commit to making this one change for a week. Each day, observe how you feel when you choose the more fulfilling option over the quick pleasure. Keep a brief journal of your observations. You might notice that while the alternative doesn't provide the same immediate gratification, it leaves you feeling more satisfied and content overall. This exercise isn't about completely eliminating pleasures from your life. Balance is key, and small indulgences have their place. Rather, it's about becoming more aware of what truly contributes to your lasting happiness and making conscious choices to prioritize those things. As we conclude this chapter on clarity, remember that understanding what truly makes you happy is an ongoing process. Our needs and values can evolve over time, and what brings us joy might change as we grow and experience life. The key is to remain curious and self-aware, regularly checking in with yourself to ensure your pursuits align with your authentic desires and values. By distinguishing between fleeting pleasures and lasting joys, recognizing the pitfalls of seeking external validation, and developing a personal framework for evaluating what contributes to your happiness, you've taken the first crucial steps on the path to enduring well-being. This clarity will serve as a foundation as we delve deeper into the strategies for cultivating lasting happiness in the chapters to come. As we move forward, we'll explore how understanding your core values can further refine your pursuit of happiness, providing an even stronger compass for navigating life's choices and challenges. The journey to lasting joy is just beginning, and with each step, you'll gain new insights and tools to create a life rich in meaning, fulfillment, and authentic happiness. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2: Values. As we embark on this next stage of our journey towards lasting happiness, we find ourselves delving into a realm that's both deeply personal and universally significant. We're about to explore a concept that serves as the very foundation of our decisions, actions, and ultimately, our sense of fulfillment. It's a force that silently guides us, often without our conscious awareness, yet profoundly shapes the course of our lives. Imagine for a moment that you're standing at the helm of a ship. The vast ocean stretches out before you, filled with countless possible destinations. How do you decide which way to steer? What guides your choices when faced with crossroads or storms? The answer lies in something far more fundamental than maps or weather reports. It's an internal compass, one that's uniquely calibrated to you and you alone. This internal compass is what we're going to uncover and fine-tune in this chapter. It's a tool so powerful that when properly understood and utilized, it can transform not just your decision-making process, but your entire experience of life. It has the potential to bring a sense of purpose and direction to your daily actions, infuse your choices with meaning, and align your life with what truly matters to you. But what exactly is this compass? What are its components, and how does it work? These are the questions we'll be answering as we progress through this chapter. For now, let's start by considering a simple yet profound truth. Not all pursuits in life are created equal when it comes to fostering lasting happiness. Think about the last time you achieved something you had been working towards for a long time. Perhaps it was a promotion at work, the purchase of a new car, or reaching a fitness goal. How did you feel in that moment of achievement? Now, consider how long that feeling lasted. Did the glow of accomplishment fade quickly, leaving you searching for the next goal to chase? Or did it provide a lasting sense of satisfaction that continued to resonate long after the initial excitement wore off? The difference in how these achievements affect our long-term happiness often comes down to the nature of the pursuit itself. Some goals, when reached, provide a brief surge of pleasure, but little lasting impact on our overall well-being. Others seem to nourish our souls, providing a deep sense of fulfillment that endures. Understanding this distinction is crucial as we begin to explore the concept of values and their role in shaping our happiness. At its core, this chapter is about aligning your life with what truly matters to you. It's about distinguishing between the things you pursue because you genuinely care about them and those you chase simply because you think you should or because others expect you to. This distinction might seem obvious at first glance, but in practice, it can be surprisingly challenging to discern. Our values are the fundamental beliefs and principles that guide our behavior and decisions. They're the qualities and ideals that we hold dear, the standards by which we measure what's important in life. Values might include concepts like honesty, creativity, family, personal growth, or community service. They act as an internal compass, helping us navigate the complex terrain of life's choices and challenges. But here's where it gets interesting. Our values aren't always as clear-cut or as consciously chosen as we might think. Often, they're a mix of ideals we've deliberately adopted and ones we've unconsciously absorbed from our families, cultures, and societies. Some of our values might align perfectly with our authentic selves, while others might be remnants of expectations or beliefs that don't truly resonate with who we are. This is where critical thinking comes into play. To truly understand and leverage our values for greater happiness, we need to examine them closely. We need to question their origins, test their authenticity, and consider how well they serve us in our pursuit of a fulfilling life. As we delve deeper into this exploration, we'll uncover a crucial distinction that can dramatically impact our happiness: the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic values. This distinction holds the key to understanding why some pursuits leave us feeling empty and unfulfilled, while others provide deep and lasting satisfaction. Intrinsic values are those we pursue for their own sake, because they're inherently meaningful or enjoyable to us. These might include personal growth, close relationships, or contributing to our communities. When we engage in activities aligned with our intrinsic values, we often experience a sense of flow, purpose, and genuine contentment. On the other hand, extrinsic values are oriented towards external rewards or validation. These might include the pursuit of wealth for status, chasing fame, or striving for a certain appearance to impress others. While achieving extrinsic goals can provide a temporary boost of happiness, this feeling often fades quickly, leaving us in search of the next external validation. Understanding this distinction is crucial because it helps explain why some achievements, despite being socially praised or materially rewarding, might leave us feeling oddly empty or unsatisfied. It's not that extrinsic goals are inherently bad or that we should never pursue them. Rather, the key is to recognize that when these extrinsic pursuits dominate our lives at the expense of our intrinsic values, we're likely to experience a decrease in overall life satisfaction and happiness. Consider the pursuit of wealth, a common extrinsic goal. Money, up to a certain point, can indeed increase our happiness by providing security and access to resources. However, beyond meeting our basic needs and providing a comfortable life, the continuous pursuit of more wealth often fails to yield proportional increases in happiness. In fact, it can lead to a never-ending cycle of wanting more, as there's always someone richer to compare ourselves to, or a more expensive status symbol to acquire. In contrast, intrinsic pursuits tend to provide more sustainable sources of happiness. When we engage in activities that align with our core values, like spending quality time with loved ones, pursuing a passion project, or volunteering for a cause we believe in, we often experience a deep sense of fulfillment that doesn't diminish over time. These activities satisfy our basic psychological needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness, contributing to our overall well-being in a way that external rewards simply can't match. This isn't to say that we should completely disregard extrinsic goals. They can serve important purposes in our lives and society. The key is to maintain a balance and to ensure that our pursuit of extrinsic rewards doesn't come at the cost of neglecting our intrinsic values. So, how do we go about identifying our true values? How can we distinguish between the principles we genuinely hold dear and those we've adopted without much thought? This process requires introspection, honesty, and a willingness to challenge our assumptions about what we think we should value. One effective approach is to reflect on peak moments in your life, times when you felt truly happy, proud, or fulfilled. What was happening in those moments? What values were you expressing or experiencing? For instance, if one of your happiest memories is of a family gathering, it might indicate that you deeply value connection and family bonds. If you felt immense pride after completing a challenging project, it could point to values like achievement, creativity, or personal growth. It's also crucial to examine the influences that have shaped your values. We all inherit certain beliefs and principles from our families, cultures, and societies. While many of these can align with our authentic selves, others might not. The goal is to critically examine these inherited values and decide which ones truly resonate with you. For example, you might have grown up in a family that highly values academic achievement and professional success. While these aren't inherently negative values, it's worth questioning whether they align with your personal definition of a fulfilling life. Perhaps you find more meaning in creative pursuits or in building strong community ties. Recognizing this misalignment can be the first step towards reshaping your life in a way that better reflects your authentic values. As you begin to identify your core values, you might find yourself with a lengthy list. This is normal and even beneficial at first, as it allows you to explore the full range of principles that matter to you. However, to make these values truly actionable in your life, it can be helpful to prioritize them. Try to narrow down your list to your top 5 to 7 most important values. Then challenge yourself further by selecting the top 3. This process of prioritization can be enlightening, forcing you to really consider what matters most to you when push comes to shove. It's important to note that this prioritization doesn't mean completely disregarding the values that don't make your top list. Rather, it's about recognizing which values are most central to your sense of self and well-being. These are the principles that, when honored, bring you the greatest sense of fulfillment and authenticity. As you go through this process, you might notice that some of your values seem to conflict with each other. This is perfectly normal and doesn't necessarily mean you've identified your values incorrectly. For instance, you might value both adventure and security, or both career success and family time. These apparent conflicts don't mean you have to choose one value over the other entirely. Instead, they present an opportunity for you to find creative ways to honor both values in your life. For example, if you value both adventure and security, you might find ways to incorporate small, calculated risks or new experiences into your life while maintaining a stable foundation. If you value both career success and family time, you might seek out flexible work arrangements or set clear boundaries to ensure quality time with loved ones. The key is to recognize these potential conflicts and consciously work towards finding a balance that feels right for you. Now that we've explored the process of identifying and prioritizing your values, let's consider how to put this knowledge into action. After all, understanding your values is just the first step. The real power comes from aligning your daily life with these core principles. One effective way to start this alignment process is through a values alignment check. This involves examining different areas of your life, such as work, relationships, leisure activities, and personal growth, and evaluating how well each area reflects your core values. Start by listing out the key domains of your life. For each domain, consider how well it currently aligns with your top values. For instance, if creativity is one of your core values, does your work allow for creative expression? Do your hobbies involve creative pursuits? If family is a top value, how much quality time are you able to spend with loved ones in your current lifestyle? This exercise often reveals areas of misalignment that you might not have been consciously aware of. Perhaps you'll realize that while you deeply value learning and growth, your current routine doesn't include any dedicated time for personal development. Or you might find that your job, while financially rewarding, doesn't align well with your value of making a positive impact on society. Identifying these misalignments is crucial because they often contribute to feelings of dissatisfaction or emptiness, even when everything in our lives seems fine on the surface. Once you've pinpointed areas of misalignment, you can start to plan small, actionable steps to bring these areas of your life into better alignment with your values. For instance, if you've realized that your value of community involvement isn't being honored in your current lifestyle, you might start by researching local volunteer opportunities or community groups. If you value creativity, but your job doesn't allow for much creative expression, you might consider taking up a creative hobby or looking for ways to incorporate more innovative thinking into your work tasks. The key here is to start small and be specific. It's easy to feel overwhelmed if you try to overhaul your entire life at once. Instead, focus on one or two areas where you can make realistic changes. Remember, even small shifts towards better alignment with your values can have a significant impact on your overall sense of fulfillment and happiness. To really cement the connection between living your values and experiencing greater happiness, it can be helpful to put one of your core values into immediate action. Choose a value that you feel you've been neglecting lately, but that's very important to you. This might be something like kindness, personal growth, or health. Once you've selected a value, brainstorm at least 3 concrete actions you could take to express this value in your daily life. The key here is to be specific and actionable. For example, if you've chosen kindness as your value, your actions might include giving a genuine compliment to a coworker, calling a friend who's going through a tough time, or volunteering for an hour at a local charity. From your list of potential actions, choose one and commit to doing it today or scheduling it for the very near future. The immediacy is important here. It helps build momentum and makes the concept of living your values feel tangible and achievable. After you've taken this action, take a few minutes to reflect on the experience. How did it feel to consciously act in alignment with your value? Did you notice any changes in your mood or sense of fulfillment? This reflection helps reinforce the connection between values-aligned behavior and positive emotions, motivating you to continue this practice. As we conclude this exploration of values and their impact on happiness, it's worth emphasizing that this is an ongoing process. Our values can evolve over time as we grow and our life circumstances change. The key is to maintain an awareness of what truly matters to you and to regularly check in with yourself to ensure your life remains aligned with these core principles. By understanding and honoring your authentic values, you create a strong foundation for lasting happiness. You'll likely find that decisions become clearer, actions feel more purposeful, and even challenges become more manageable when viewed through the lens of your core values. As we move forward, we'll build upon this foundation, exploring how our deeply held beliefs shape our experiences and emotions. The next chapter will delve into a fascinating aspect of our mental landscape, one that often operates behind the scenes yet wields immense power over our happiness. It's a realm where reality and perception intertwine, where the stories we tell ourselves can either limit our joy or expand our potential for fulfillment. Prepare to uncover the hidden narratives that might be shaping your happiness in ways you've never imagined. Chapter 3: Beliefs. As we venture deeper into our exploration of happiness, we find ourselves at the threshold of a fascinating realm, one that exists entirely within our minds, yet wields immense power over our lived experiences. This chapter invites you to peer behind the curtain of your consciousness and examine the hidden scripts that shape your reality. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a vast theater. The stage is set with the props and scenery of your life, your relationships, your career, your possessions. But what truly brings this scene to life? What determines whether the play unfolding is a comedy or a tragedy? The answer lies not in the set pieces themselves, but in the invisible narration that accompanies them. This narration, often unnoticed and unexamined, is composed of your beliefs, the silent assumptions and expectations that color every aspect of your life. These beliefs act as a lens through which you interpret the world around you, influencing not just how you see things, but how you feel about them and how you respond to them. But here's the intriguing part. This lens isn't fixed. It's not a permanent fixture that you're stuck with for life. With the right tools and awareness, you can adjust this lens, even replace it entirely. And when you do, you might find that the very same life circumstances that once seemed dull or distressing suddenly take on a new, more vibrant hue. As we embark on this journey of belief exploration, you might find yourself wondering, are my beliefs really that influential? Surely, it's what happens to me that determines my happiness, not what I think about it. This is a natural assumption, but as we'll discover, it's one that doesn't quite hold up under scrutiny. Consider two individuals facing the exact same situation. Let's say an unexpected change in their career path. One person might interpret this as a catastrophe, a sign of personal failure that sends them spiraling into despair. The other might view it as an exciting opportunity, a chance to explore new avenues and grow. Same external circumstance, vastly different emotional outcomes. What accounts for this difference? You guessed it, their beliefs. This isn't to say that external circumstances don't matter at all. Of course they do. But what this example illustrates is the profound impact our beliefs have on how we experience those circumstances. Our beliefs act as a filter, determining which aspects of a situation we focus on, how we interpret them, and ultimately, how we feel about them. Now, you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but I can't just choose to believe whatever I want. My beliefs are based on my experiences and what I know to be true. And you'd be right, to a point. Our beliefs aren't arbitrary. They're shaped by our upbringing, our culture, our personal experiences, and countless other factors. But, and this is crucial, just because we've held a belief for a long time, or because it feels true, doesn't necessarily mean it is true or helpful. Many of our beliefs about happiness fall into this category. We carry around assumptions like, I'll be happy when I achieve X, or I can't be happy because of Y, without ever really examining them. These beliefs often operate in the background of our minds, influencing our thoughts and actions without our conscious awareness. For instance, you might hold the belief that I'll be happy when I find the perfect partner. This belief might drive you to constantly seek out new relationships, always feeling dissatisfied with your current situation. Or perhaps you believe, I can't be truly happy until I'm financially successful. This might lead you to pour all your energy into your career, neglecting other areas of your life that could bring you joy. These are just a couple of examples, but there are countless others. I must be perfect to be worthy of happiness. Others have it easier than me. I don't deserve to be happy. These beliefs, left unexamined, can act as invisible barriers to our happiness, constantly moving the goalposts or convincing us that joy is somehow out of our reach. But where do these beliefs come from? How do they take root in our minds? Understanding the origins of our beliefs is a crucial step in learning to examine and, if necessary, change them. Many of our beliefs about happiness are inherited from our families and cultures. From a young age, we absorb messages about what it means to be happy and successful. These messages might come explicitly through what we're told or implicitly through what we observe. A child who grows up in a household where material success is highly valued might internalize the belief that wealth is necessary for happiness. Someone raised in a culture that emphasizes collective harmony might develop the belief that their own happiness is less important than the group's. Personal experiences also play a significant role in shaping our beliefs. If you've experienced a series of disappointments or setbacks, you might develop the belief that nothing ever works out for me. Conversely, if you've had many successes, you might believe that your happiness depends on continually achieving more. The media and societal norms contribute to our belief systems as well. We're constantly bombarded with images and stories that reinforce certain ideas about happiness, that it comes from having the perfect body, the ideal relationship, the most exciting career. Over time, these messages can seep into our subconscious, becoming beliefs we hold without even realizing it. The tricky thing about beliefs is that once they're established, our minds tend to look for evidence that supports them while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. This is known as confirmation bias, and it's one reason why beliefs can be so persistent even in the face of contradictory information. So how do we begin to identify these often hidden beliefs that are shaping our happiness? One powerful technique is to pay attention to your if-only thoughts. These are the thoughts that pop up when you're feeling dissatisfied or unhappy. If only I had a better job, then I'd be happy. If only I were more attractive, smarter, more confident, then I'd be happy. By noting these thoughts, you can start to uncover the underlying beliefs about what you think is necessary for your happiness. Another valuable practice is to listen closely to your self-talk, especially when you're feeling down. What do you tell yourself in these moments? This always happens to me. I don't deserve better. It's because I'm not good enough. These statements often reveal deeply held beliefs about yourself and your relationship to happiness. It's also worth examining some common societal myths about happiness that you might have internalized. For instance, the belief that more money always means more happiness, or being busy all the time means you're doing well in life. While these ideas are pervasive, they're not necessarily true and can often lead to decreased rather than increased happiness. As you start to uncover these beliefs, you might be surprised by what you find. Some beliefs might be obvious to you, while others might have been operating under the radar, influencing your thoughts and actions without your awareness. The important thing is to approach this exploration with curiosity rather than judgment. Remember, these beliefs didn't appear out of nowhere. They developed for reasons, even if those reasons no longer serve you. Now that we've discussed how to identify limiting beliefs, let's talk about how to challenge them. This is where critical thinking comes into play. Just because a belief feels true doesn't mean it is true, and learning to question your beliefs is a powerful tool for increasing your happiness. One effective method for examining beliefs is through Socratic questioning. This involves asking yourself a series of probing questions about the belief. Is this always true? What's the evidence for and against this belief? Are there any exceptions? Where did I learn this belief? What would I tell a friend who held this belief? For example, let's say you hold the belief, I must be perfect to be worthy of happiness. You might ask yourself, is this always true? Can I think of any imperfect people who seem happy? Where did I learn this belief? Is it realistic or helpful to expect perfection from myself or anyone else? Another powerful technique is reality checking. This involves actively seeking out evidence that contradicts your belief. If you believe money is the key to happiness, you might research studies on the relationship between wealth and well-being, or reflect on times in your own life when you were happy despite not having much money. Many limiting beliefs are all or nothing in nature. I have to be successful in everything I do or I'm a failure. If I'm not completely happy all the time, something's wrong with me. Learning to transform these absolute statements into more nuanced, realistic beliefs can be incredibly freeing. Instead of, I must always be productive to be worthwhile, you might adopt the belief, rest and relaxation are important parts of a balanced, happy life. As you work on challenging and reframing your beliefs, it can be helpful to have a structured approach. One such framework is the ABC belief analysis, adapted from rational emotive behavior therapy. This model helps you connect the dots between events, your beliefs about those events, and the emotional consequences that follow. Here's how it works. A stands for activating event. This is the situation or occurrence that triggers an emotional response. For example, not being invited to a friend's gathering. B is for belief. This is your interpretation or thought about the event. In this case, it might be, they must not care about me, or I'm always left out. C represents consequence, which is the emotional or behavioral result of your belief. You might feel hurt and lonely, or you might withdraw from your friends. The key insight of this model is that it's not the event itself, A, that directly causes the emotional consequence, C, but rather your belief or interpretation of the event, B. This is why two people can have very different emotional reactions to the same situation. They hold different beliefs about what the situation means. But the ABC model doesn't stop there. It also includes two additional steps. D stands for dispute. This is where you challenge the belief, using the techniques we discussed earlier. You might ask yourself, do I know for sure why I wasn't invited? Could there be another explanation? E is for effect, which is the new emotional outcome that results from disputing and changing your belief. If you shift from, they don't care about me, to, there might be a reason I don't know about, I'll check with them, your emotional response is likely to change as well. Practicing this ABCDE process can help you become more aware of how your beliefs are shaping your emotional experiences and give you a structured way to challenge and change those beliefs. Now that we've explored various techniques for identifying and challenging limiting beliefs, let's put this knowledge into practice with a hands-on exercise. This exercise is designed to help you rewrite your personal narrative about happiness. Start by choosing one core belief you hold about happiness or what's holding you back from being happy. It could be something like, I can't be happy because of my past. I'll only be happy when I achieve a certain goal. Or I'm just not a naturally happy person. Once you've identified this belief, create a 2-column table. In the left column, write down all the evidence or reasons you can think of that support this belief. Why do you think it's true? In the right column, challenge yourself to find evidence against this belief. Are there times when it hasn't been true? Are there logical flaws in the belief? For example, if your belief is, I'm just not a happy person, your evidence for might include things like, I often feel down, or I've been told I'm too serious. Your evidence against might include, I do enjoy certain activities, or I've had periods in my life when I felt content. After you've filled out both columns, take a step back and look at the complete picture. Often, you'll find that the evidence is more mixed than you initially thought. Use this balanced view to craft a new, more nuanced belief. Continuing with our example, a new belief might be, I have the capacity for happiness, even if it sometimes takes effort, or my mood fluctuates, but I can learn strategies to increase my overall happiness. The final step is to put this new belief into practice. For the next week, consciously remind yourself of your new, more balanced belief, especially when you notice the old belief creeping in. Keep a brief journal of how this shift in perspective affects your mood and actions. You might be surprised at how a seemingly small change in belief can lead to noticeable changes in your day-to-day happiness. As we conclude this chapter, it's important to remember that changing long-held beliefs is a process. It takes time, practice, and patience. You might find some beliefs easier to shift than others, and that's okay. The goal isn't to completely overhaul your belief system overnight, but to gradually cultivate a mindset that supports rather than hinders your happiness. By learning to identify and challenge limiting beliefs, you're developing a powerful tool for increasing your happiness and resilience. You're taking control of the narrative in your mind's theater, rewriting the script to support your well-being rather than undermine it. As we move forward, we'll build on this foundation of belief examination and reframing. In the next chapter, we'll explore another fascinating aspect of how our minds work, one that often operates silently in the background, coloring our perceptions and influencing our happiness in ways we might not even realize. Get ready to uncover the hidden forces that shape your everyday experiences and learn how to harness them for greater joy and fulfillment. Biases. As we delve deeper into our exploration of happiness, we find ourselves at the threshold of a fascinating realm, one that exists in the shadows of our minds, quietly shaping our perceptions and experiences without our conscious awareness. This chapter invites you to shine a light on these hidden influences, to uncover the subtle yet powerful forces that can either enhance or undermine your pursuit of joy. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a sophisticated camera. This camera doesn't just capture the world around you, it processes and interprets what it sees. But here's the intriguing part. This camera comes with preset filters. These filters, invisible to the naked eye, subtly alter the images you perceive. Some might make certain elements appear larger or more significant than they really are. Others might dim or even completely obscure certain aspects of the scene. Now, what if I told you that these filters aren't always working in your best interest? What if some of them were causing you to miss out on moments of joy or magnifying sources of stress and anxiety? What if they were distorting your view of yourself and others in ways that made happiness more elusive? This is the reality we're about to explore. These filters are what psychologists call cognitive biases, systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. They are, in essence, mental shortcuts or rules of thumb that our brains use to make sense of the world quickly and efficiently. While these shortcuts can be useful in many situations, they can also lead us astray, particularly when it comes to our happiness and well-being. But here's the good news. Once you become aware of these biases, you can learn to recognize when they're at work and take steps to counteract their effects. It's like gaining access to the settings of that mental camera, allowing you to adjust those filters for a clearer, more balanced view of your life and experiences. As we begin to unpack this concept, you might find yourself wondering, are these biases really that influential? Surely I see things as they are most of the time. It's a natural question, and the answer might surprise you. These biases are so ingrained in our thinking that we often don't realize they're there at all. They operate in the background, coloring our perceptions and influencing our decisions in subtle yet significant ways. Consider this scenario. You've just completed a project at work. Your boss provides feedback, mentioning several things you did well and one area for improvement. Which part of that feedback are you most likely to remember and dwell on later? If you're like most people, it's the criticism that will stick with you, while the praise fades quickly from memory. This is an example of what psychologists call the negativity bias. our tendency to give more weight to negative experiences or information than to positive ones. This bias, like many others we'll explore, has deep evolutionary roots. In our ancestors' environment, paying more attention to potential threats was a survival advantage. The early human who was hyper-aware of dangers was more likely to survive and pass on their genes than one who was more laid back. But in our modern world, this same tendency can lead us to overlook the many positive aspects of our lives, focusing instead on problems and perceived shortcomings. Another common bias that can significantly impact our happiness is the confirmation bias. This is our tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms or supports our pre-existing beliefs or values. If you believe you're unlucky, for instance, you're more likely to notice and remember instances that seem to confirm this belief, while overlooking or discounting evidence to the contrary. Then there's the availability heuristic, which leads us to overestimate the likelihood or importance of things that are more readily available in memory. This can be particularly problematic in the age of 24/7 news and social media. When we're constantly exposed to negative news stories, it can skew our perception of the world, making us believe that danger and misfortune are more common than they actually are. Social comparison is another mental habit that can have a profound impact on our happiness. While not a cognitive bias in the traditional sense, our tendency to constantly measure ourselves against others can lead to feelings of inadequacy and dissatisfaction. This is especially true in the age of social media, where we're constantly exposed to curated highlights of others' lives. As we explore these biases and mental habits, it's important to remember that they're not inherently bad. They're simply tools our brains use to process the vast amount of information we encounter every day. The problem arises when these mental shortcuts lead us to inaccurate conclusions that negatively impact our happiness and well-being. The goal, then, is not to eliminate these biases, that's likely impossible, but to become aware of them. By recognizing when these biases are at play, we can pause, step back, and apply critical thinking to arrive at a more balanced perspective. Let's delve deeper into how these biases can affect our day-to-day happiness. The negativity bias, for instance, can lead us to dwell on criticisms or perceived failures while quickly forgetting compliments and successes. This can result in a skewed self-image and unnecessary stress and anxiety. You might find yourself replaying that one critical comment from a colleague over and over, while barely registering the numerous positive interactions you had throughout the day. Confirmation bias can trap us in negative thought patterns. If you believe that you're not good enough or that people don't like you, you're more likely to notice and remember events that seem to confirm these beliefs. This can create a self-fulfilling prophecy where your biased perceptions actually shape your behavior in ways that make these negative outcomes more likely. The availability heuristic can lead to unnecessary worry and anxiety. If you've recently heard about a rare disease, for example, you might suddenly start noticing symptoms and worrying that you have it, even if the actual likelihood is very low. This bias can be particularly problematic when it comes to assessing risks, often making us more fearful of unlikely but dramatic events while underestimating more common but less sensational risks. Social comparison, fueled by platforms like social media, can be a significant source of unhappiness. When we constantly compare ourselves to others, often to an idealized version of their lives that we see online, we're likely to feel that we're falling short. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, envy, and a persistent sense that we're not doing enough, or that our lives aren't as exciting or fulfilling as they should be. The grass is always greener mentality, closely related to social comparison, can prevent us from appreciating what we have. When we're constantly focused on what others have that we don't, we miss out on the joys and blessings present in our own lives. This bias can lead to a perpetual state of dissatisfaction, always thinking that happiness lies just out of reach in some other situation or circumstance. These biases don't just affect our internal emotional state, they can also impact our behavior and decision-making in ways that further undermine our happiness. For example, The negativity bias might cause you to avoid taking risks or trying new things out of an exaggerated fear of failure. Confirmation bias might lead you to stay in unfulfilling situations because you're only noticing evidence that supports your current beliefs. The availability heuristic might cause you to make decisions based on vivid but rare events rather than on more relevant but less dramatic information. Moreover, these biases can strain our relationships. If you're constantly assuming the worst about others' intentions, a form of negativity bias, or comparing your relationship to idealized versions you see on social media, you're likely to experience more conflict and dissatisfaction in your personal connections. So how can we counteract these biases and cultivate a more balanced, positive outlook? The first step is awareness. Simply knowing that these biases exist and being able to recognize them in action is a powerful tool. When you catch yourself dwelling on a negative event or making broad generalizations based on limited information, you can pause and ask yourself, is this a balanced view, or might one of my cognitive biases be at play here? Once you've identified a potential bias, you can challenge it with data and logic. For instance, if you find yourself fixating on a negative event due to the negativity bias, you might consciously list several positive things that also happened recently. This doesn't negate the negative event, but it helps put it in perspective. For confirmation bias, make a deliberate effort to seek out information that challenges your current beliefs. If you believe you're unlucky, for example, try to recall instances where things worked out well for you. This can help break the cycle of only noticing evidence that confirms your existing views. When it comes to social comparison, remind yourself that you're often seeing a curated version of others' lives, especially on social media. Everyone has struggles and insecurities, even if they don't share them publicly. Focus on your own growth and progress rather than comparing yourself to others. Ask yourself, how am I doing compared to where I was a year ago, rather than, how am I doing compared to person X? To combat the availability heuristic, try to seek out objective data rather than relying solely on what comes easily to mind. If you're worried about a particular risk, look up actual statistics rather than going by your gut feeling, which might be influenced by dramatic news stories or recent events. One effective framework for counteracting biases is what we might call the logical bias buster. Here's how it works. First, pause and identify. When you notice yourself feeling unusually anxious, sad, or making broad negative statements, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, which bias might be influencing my thinking right now? Simply naming the potential bias can create some mental distance and make it easier to examine your thoughts more objectively. Next, counter with data. Challenge the biased thought with objective information or a deliberate mental exercise. If you're caught in negativity bias, for example, you might list 5 positive things that happened recently to balance out the one negative event you've been fixating on. For confirmation bias, actively seek out information that goes against your current belief. If you find yourself caught in social comparison, try reframing the context. Remind yourself that everyone's path is different and that you don't have the full story of anyone else's life. Shift your focus to comparing your current self with your past self, focusing on personal growth rather than external competition. Finally, ask yourself some reality check questions. Am I focusing only on the negative and ignoring positives? Is this really true all the time, or am I generalizing from a single incident? Am I basing this feeling on facts or on impressions? What would a neutral outsider say about this situation? Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate these biases entirely. That's likely impossible. Instead, aim to develop a habit of catching and correcting biased thinking. Over time, this can train your mind to naturally adopt a more balanced perspective. To help cement these concepts and start building healthier mental habits, try the following exercise for a week. Each evening, take a few minutes to write down 3 positive things that happened that day, no matter how small. This simple practice can help counteract the negativity bias by training your mind to notice and remember positive events. When something negative happens or you receive criticism, Make a rule with yourself to delay dwelling on it. Note it down if you must, but don't ruminate on it immediately. Instead, set aside a short worry period later in the day to think about it. Often, by the time this period arrives, you'll find you can view the situation more rationally. Each time you find yourself envying someone's social media post or feeling that others have it better than you, do a quick reality check. Remind yourself that you're seeing a curated highlight reel, not the full picture of someone's life. Consider unfollowing accounts that consistently trigger envy and seek out content that shows more realistic life journeys. At the end of the week, review a couple of instances where you felt unhappy and analyze which biases might have been at play. Writing this out can cement your understanding and help you spot these patterns more quickly in the future. As we conclude this exploration of cognitive biases, remember that becoming aware of these mental shortcuts is a powerful step towards greater happiness and well-being. By learning to recognize and counteract these biases, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're reshaping your entire experience of the world around you. This newfound awareness sets the stage for our next chapter, where we'll delve into a transformative skill that can dramatically shift your emotional landscape. Get ready to discover a powerful technique for reframing your experiences, one that can turn challenges into opportunities and expand your capacity for joy in ways you might never have imagined. Chapter 5, Perspective. As we continue our journey towards lasting happiness, we find ourselves at a pivotal juncture, one that has the power to transform not just how we feel, but how we experience the very fabric of our lives. We're about to explore a concept so fundamental, yet so often overlooked, that mastering it can feel like gaining a superpower in the pursuit of joy. Imagine for a moment that you're looking through a telescope. At first, you're focused on a tiny detail, perhaps a single star in the night sky. It's beautiful, but it's just one pinpoint of light in a vast darkness. Now, slowly, you start to zoom out. Suddenly, that single star becomes part of a constellation. Zoom out further, and you see the entire Milky Way, a breathtaking tapestry of countless stars and cosmic wonders. This act of zooming out, of shifting your focus from the minute to the magnificent, is at the heart of what we're about to explore. But we're not just talking about stargazing. We're talking about a powerful tool that can reshape your entire emotional landscape. What if you could apply this same principle to your daily life? What if you could zoom out when faced with a problem, seeing not just the immediate challenge, but the broader context of your life? What if you could shift your focus from what's going wrong to what's going right, from what you lack to what you have in abundance? This is the power of perspective, and it's what we'll be diving into in this chapter. But perspective isn't just about positive thinking or ignoring problems. It's about developing a more nuanced, balanced view of your life, one that acknowledges challenges while also recognizing opportunities, one that can find silver linings without denying the reality of difficult situations. As we begin to unpack this concept, you might find yourself wondering, is changing my perspective really that powerful? Can it truly make a significant difference in my happiness? The answer, backed by both ancient wisdom and modern research, is a resounding yes. Consider this. Two people can face the exact same situation and have completely different emotional responses. One might see a setback as a catastrophic failure, while another views it as a valuable learning opportunity. One might dwell on what they've lost, while another focuses on what they still have. The external circumstances haven't changed, but the internal experience and the resulting level of happiness can be worlds apart. This is the essence of perspective. It's not about changing the facts of your life, but about changing how you interpret and respond to those facts. It's about recognizing that while we can't always control what happens to us, we have a great deal of control over how we think about what happens to us. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your perspective doesn't just influence how you feel in the moment. It can actually shape your reality over time. When you consistently view life through a lens of gratitude, resilience, and possibility, you're more likely to notice opportunities, build stronger relationships, and take actions that lead to positive outcomes. In other words, your perspective can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So how do we harness this power? How do we shift our perspective in ways that genuinely enhance our happiness and well-being? That's what we'll be exploring in depth throughout this chapter. One key aspect of perspective is learning to distinguish between what truly matters and what doesn't. It's about developing the wisdom to know which battles are worth fighting and which are better left alone. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Rather, it's about putting things in their proper context. Consider the 10-10-10 rule, a simple but powerful tool for gaining perspective. When faced with a stressful situation or decision, ask yourself, how will I feel about this 10 days from now? How about 10 months from now? And what about 10 years from now? This exercise often reveals that many of the things we stress about day to day are actually quite insignificant in the grand scheme of our lives. That embarrassing moment in a meeting? In 10 days, you'll probably have forgotten about it. The argument with a friend? In 10 months, it's likely to be resolved and possibly even strengthen your relationship. On the flip side, this exercise can also highlight which issues truly deserve our attention and energy. If something will still matter to you in 10 years, like a major career decision or how you treat your loved ones, then it's worth investing your time and emotional resources into addressing it thoughtfully. Another powerful perspective shift involves focusing on what you can control rather than what you can't. This idea, rooted in Stoic philosophy, can be incredibly liberating. When you clearly distinguish between what's within your power to change and what isn't, you can channel your energy more effectively and reduce unnecessary stress and frustration. For instance, you can't control the weather, but you can control how you prepare for it. You can't control how others behave, but you can control your own responses and actions. By shifting your focus to what's within your sphere of influence, you regain a sense of agency and empowerment, even in challenging situations. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful perspective shifts of all: gratitude. Gratitude is more than just saying thank you or acknowledging good things when they happen. It's a mindset, a way of viewing the world that actively seeks out and appreciates the positive aspects of your life. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it's about intentionally noticing and savoring the good things, big and small, that are already present in your life. It's about shifting your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant. The impact of this shift can be profound. When you regularly practice gratitude, you're training your brain to notice positive things more readily. Over time, this can lead to a more optimistic outlook and greater overall life satisfaction. It can also help buffer against stress and negative emotions, making you more resilient in the face of challenges. But how exactly does gratitude work its magic? Part of it has to do with hedonic adaptation, our tendency to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events. While this adaptation can be frustrating when it comes to positive changes, like the excitement of a new purchase wearing off, gratitude helps us continually appreciate the good things in our lives, counteracting this tendency to take them for granted. Moreover, gratitude shifts our focus from social comparison and the pursuit of more to an appreciation of what we already have. This can lead to feelings of contentment and sufficiency, reducing the anxiety and dissatisfaction that often come from constantly striving for more or feeling like we don't measure up to others. Incorporating gratitude into your daily life doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as taking a few moments each day to mentally note things you're thankful for. You might start your day by thinking of 3 things you're grateful for, or end your day by reflecting on positive moments or interactions you experienced. A gratitude journal can be a powerful tool for cultivating this mindset. By regularly writing down things you're grateful for, you create a tangible record of the good in your life. This can be especially helpful during challenging times, providing a reminder of the positive aspects of your life that might be easy to overlook when you're stressed or upset. Another powerful gratitude practice is expressing appreciation to others. When you verbalize your gratitude, you not only reinforce the positive feeling for yourself, but also strengthen your relationships. This can create a virtuous cycle where expressing gratitude leads to stronger social connections, which in turn give you more to be grateful for. But what about when life gets really tough? How can we maintain a positive perspective in the face of serious challenges or setbacks? This is where the true power of perspective shines through. One technique is to look for the silver lining, even in difficult situations. This doesn't mean denying the reality of your challenges or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Rather, it's about recognizing that even in tough times, there might be opportunities for growth, learning, or unexpected positive outcomes. For example, if you lose your job, it's natural and valid to feel upset and worried. But you might also consider how this change could open up new opportunities, allow you to pursue a passion you've been putting off, or teach you valuable lessons about resilience and adaptability. Another powerful perspective shift is to view challenges as temporary rather than permanent. When we're in the midst of a difficult situation, it can feel like it will last forever. But reminding yourself that this too shall pass can provide comfort and hope, helping you maintain a more balanced outlook. The zoom out technique can be particularly helpful when dealing with overwhelming problems. When you're too close to a situation, it's easy to lose perspective. By mentally stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, you can often gain valuable insights and a sense of proportion. Here's how it works. When you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed by a problem, take a moment to write it down. Then, deliberately broaden your view. How might you describe this situation a year from now? How would an outsider see it? What aspects of your life are unaffected by this problem? This exercise can help you see that while the problem is real, it's likely not as all-encompassing as it might feel in the moment. Another valuable tool is the circle of control exercise. Draw 2 circles, one inside the other. In the inner circle, list aspects of your current worry that you can control or influence. In the outer circle, list aspects you cannot control. This visual representation can help you focus your energy on the things you can actually change, while practicing acceptance of the things you can't. Positive reframing is another powerful perspective-shifting technique. This involves consciously choosing to view situations in a more positive or constructive light. For instance, instead of thinking, "I have to do this chore," you might reframe it as, "I get to take care of my living space." This slight shift in language can lead to a significant shift in how you feel about the task. As you practice these perspective-shifting techniques, you might find it helpful to create a daily routine to reinforce these new habits of thought. Here's a simple practice you can try for a week. Each morning, before you start your day, take a moment to write down one thing you're looking forward to or grateful for. It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be as simple as looking forward to your morning walk or feeling grateful for a comfortable bed. This small act sets a positive tone for the day and primes your mind to notice good things as they occur. In the evening, take a few minutes to reflect on your day. Write down something you're thankful for, something you learned, or a new perspective you gained, and one thing that didn't go as planned, along with how you might view it differently. This reflection helps you process your experiences through a more balanced lens and reinforces the habit of finding positive aspects even in challenging situations. At the end of the week, review your notes from the past 7 days. Write a short paragraph about any shifts you've noticed in how you feel about your life. Did problems start to seem a bit smaller or more manageable? Did you find yourself feeling more appreciative in general? Even small improvements are worth noting and celebrating. They're signs that your perspective is indeed shifting. As a bonus exercise, consider writing a gratitude letter to someone who has positively impacted your life, but whom you've never properly thanked. This doesn't have to be for a grand gesture. It could be for consistent kindness, a piece of advice that stuck with you, or support during a difficult time. Write out your appreciation in detail, explaining how their actions affected you. You don't necessarily have to send the letter, although you certainly can if you want to, but the act of writing it can provide a significant boost to your mood and perspective. As we conclude this chapter on perspective, remember that shifting your viewpoint is not about denying reality or forcing positivity. It's about developing a more nuanced, balanced way of seeing your life and the world around you. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens to you, you have a great deal of control over how you interpret and respond to events. By practicing gratitude, zooming out to see the bigger picture, focusing on what you can control, and reframing challenges as opportunities, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're reshaping your entire experience of life. You're training your mind to naturally gravitate towards a more balanced, optimistic outlook, one that acknowledges difficulties while also recognizing blessings and opportunities. This newfound perspective sets the stage for our next chapter, where we'll explore a powerful technique that can transform how you interpret and respond to life's events. Get ready to discover a tool that can turn obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into stepping stones, and challenges into catalysts for growth. We're about to delve into a skill that can revolutionize not just how you think, but how you live. Chapter Reframe. As we delve deeper into our exploration of happiness, we find ourselves at the threshold of a truly transformative concept, one that has the power to reshape not just how you think, but how you experience the very fabric of your life. We're about to uncover a mental tool so potent that mastering it can feel like gaining a superpower in your quest for joy and fulfillment. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a vast art gallery. The paintings hanging on the walls represent the events, experiences, and situations of your life. Now, picture yourself walking through this gallery, observing each painting. What determines how you feel as you look at these scenes from your life? Is it solely the content of the paintings themselves, or could it be something more? What if I told you that the frames surrounding these paintings, seemingly insignificant at first glance, actually play a crucial role in how you perceive and feel about each scene? What if changing these frames could dramatically alter your emotional response to the very same life events? This is the essence of what we're about to explore, a powerful technique that allows you to change the frames around the experiences in your life, potentially transforming your emotional landscape in the process. But we're not just talking about putting on rose-colored glasses or forcing positivity. We're diving into a nuanced, scientifically backed approach that can help you navigate life's challenges with greater resilience, optimism, and emotional intelligence. As we begin to unpack this concept, you might find yourself wondering, can simply changing how I think about a situation really make that much of a difference? Aren't some experiences just inherently good or bad? These are natural questions, and the answers might surprise you. Consider this. Two people find themselves stuck in a traffic jam. One becomes increasingly frustrated, viewing the delay as a ruined morning and a harbinger of a terrible day ahead. The other sees it as an unexpected opportunity to listen to a favorite podcast or enjoy some quiet time before a busy day. Same external circumstance, vastly different emotional experiences. This example illustrates a fundamental truth about human psychology. Our emotional reactions are not determined solely by the events we experience, but largely by how we interpret those events. In other words, it's not just what happens to us that shapes our happiness, but the story we tell ourselves about what happens. This insight opens up a world of possibilities. If we can learn to consciously shape the narratives we create about our experiences, we can potentially transform our emotional lives. We can develop the ability to find opportunity in challenge, growth in setback, and meaning in difficulty. But how exactly does this work? And more importantly, how can we harness this power in our own lives? At its core, this technique involves a shift in perspective, a deliberate change in how we interpret and make sense of the events in our lives. It's about recognizing that our initial interpretations of situations are not absolute truths, but rather stories we tell ourselves, often automatically and unconsciously. These stories are influenced by a variety of factors: our past experiences, our fears and insecurities, our cultural background, and even our current mood. Sometimes, these influences lead us to interpret situations in ways that are overly negative, unnecessarily stressful, or simply not helpful. For instance, if someone doesn't respond to your text message right away, you might automatically interpret this as they're ignoring me or they don't value our friendship. This interpretation might lead to feelings of hurt or anger. But is this the only possible interpretation? Could there be other explanations that are just as plausible but less emotionally charged? This is where the power of reframing comes in. Reframing involves consciously choosing to look at a situation from a different angle, to tell a different story about what's happening. It's like taking that painting in your mental art gallery and putting it in a new frame, one that changes how you see and feel about the image itself. Importantly, reframing isn't about denial or forced positivity. It's not about pretending that challenging or painful situations don't exist. Rather, it's about finding more balanced, constructive, or empowering ways to understand and respond to life's events. For example, if you make a mistake at work, your initial frame might be, "I'm a failure." This interpretation is likely to lead to feelings of shame and discouragement. A reframe might be, "I'm human, and humans make mistakes. What can I learn from this to improve in the future?" This new frame acknowledges the reality of the mistake while opening up possibilities for growth and improvement. The power of reframing lies in its ability to shift not just our thoughts, but our emotions and behaviors as well. When we reframe a situation in a more constructive way, we often find that our emotional response changes. We might feel less stressed, more hopeful, or more motivated to take positive action. Moreover, the stories we tell ourselves about our experiences can become self-fulfilling prophecies. If we consistently frame challenges as insurmountable obstacles, we're likely to feel overwhelmed and give up easily. On the other hand, if we frame challenges as opportunities for growth and problem solving, we're more likely to persist and find creative solutions. So how can we start putting this powerful technique into practice? The first step is to become aware of our automatic interpretations. Often, we're not even conscious of the stories we're telling ourselves about our experiences. We react emotionally without realizing that our reaction is based on an interpretation, not an objective fact. One way to increase this awareness is to pay attention to your self-talk, especially in challenging situations. What are you saying to yourself about what's happening? Are you catastrophizing, assuming the worst possible outcome? Are you personalizing, assuming that a negative event is all about you? Are you overgeneralizing, taking one negative event as evidence that everything is going wrong? Once you've identified your initial interpretation, the next step is to challenge it. Is this interpretation based on facts, or is it an assumption? Is there evidence that contradicts this interpretation? What other ways could you look at this situation? This process of questioning your initial interpretations can be powerful in itself. Often, simply realizing that there are other possible ways to view a situation can loosen the grip of negative emotions. The next step is to actively generate alternative interpretations. This is where creativity comes into play. Can you think of at least 2 or 3 other ways to understand what's happening? Even if these alternative interpretations don't feel entirely convincing at first, the act of generating them helps to broaden your perspective. For instance, if a friend cancels plans at the last minute, your initial interpretation might be, "They don't really care about me." Alternative interpretations could include, "Maybe something urgent came up. Perhaps they're not feeling well, or they might be overwhelmed and need some alone time." Each of these alternatives leads to a different emotional response and potentially different actions on your part. Once you've generated alternatives, the final step is to choose a reframe that feels both realistic and helpful. The goal isn't to force yourself to believe something you don't. It's to find an interpretation that acknowledges the reality of the situation while opening up possibilities for constructive action or emotional relief. This process might sound complex, but with practice, it can become second nature. You can start by applying it to small, everyday annoyances. Did someone cut you off in traffic? Instead of fuming about how rude they are, you might reframe it as, maybe they're having an emergency, or at least no one got hurt. As you get more comfortable with the technique, you can apply it to more significant challenges. A job loss could be reframed from, my career is over, to, this is an opportunity to explore new directions that might be even more fulfilling. A relationship breakup could shift from, I'll never find love again, to, I've learned valuable lessons about what I need in a partner. One particularly powerful reframing technique is the third-person perspective. This involves trying to view the situation as if you were an outside observer or as if it were happening to a friend rather than to you. This shift in perspective often allows us to see the situation more objectively and compassionately. For example, if you're beating yourself up over a mistake, ask yourself, what would I say to a friend in this situation? Often, we're much kinder and more balanced in our advice to others than we are in our self-talk. By adopting this third-person perspective, we can often find more constructive and compassionate ways to frame our experiences. Another useful reframing technique is to look for the silver lining or the potential for growth in challenging situations. This doesn't mean denying the difficulty of the situation, but rather asking, what opportunities might this challenge present? What could I learn from this? How might this experience help me grow? Even in very difficult circumstances, finding a small positive aspect or potential for growth can provide a sense of hope and resilience. For instance, going through a health challenge might be reframed as an opportunity to reassess priorities and appreciate the support of loved ones. Humor can also be a powerful tool for reframing, particularly for minor frustrations. Sometimes, exaggerating a situation to the point of absurdity in your mind can help deflate its emotional impact. If you spill coffee on your shirt before an important meeting, imagining yourself in a slapstick comedy routine might help you laugh it off rather than let it ruin your day. It's important to note that reframing isn't about forcing yourself to be positive all the time. Some situations are genuinely difficult or painful, and it's important to acknowledge and process those feelings. The goal of reframing isn't to eliminate negative emotions, but to ensure that our emotional responses are proportionate and constructive. Moreover, reframing should never be used to justify or excuse harmful behavior, either from ourselves or others. It's a tool for managing our own emotional responses and finding constructive ways forward, not for avoiding responsibility or enabling mistreatment. As you practice reframing, you might find it helpful to use a structured approach. Here's a simple 4-step process you can use. 1. Notice the negative thought or interpretation. 2. Challenge the thought. Is it based on facts? Are there other possibilities? 3. Generate alternative views. Come up with at least 2 other ways to interpret the situation. 4. Select a positive or pragmatic frame. Choose an interpretation that feels both realistic and helpful. Let's put this into practice with an exercise. Think of a recent challenge or negative experience you've had. It could be something relatively minor, like a disagreement with a friend, or something more significant, like a setback at work. First, write down your initial interpretation of this event. What story did you tell yourself about what happened? Be honest. Include any negative self-talk or pessimistic assumptions you made. Now, challenge this interpretation. Are there facts that contradict this view? Are you making any assumptions that might not be true? Are you falling into any common thinking traps, like catastrophizing or overgeneralizing? Next, generate at least 2 alternative ways to view this situation. Push yourself to be creative here. Even if these alternatives don't feel entirely convincing at first, the goal is to open up your perspective. Finally, choose a reframe that feels both realistic and constructive. How does this new frame change how you feel about the situation? Does it open up any new possibilities for action or growth? As you go through this exercise, you might be surprised at how differently you feel about the situation when you view it through a new frame. This shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering, reminding you that you have more control over your emotional experiences than you might have realized. Remember, the goal of reframing isn't to eliminate all negative emotions or to pretend that challenging situations don't exist. Rather, it's about developing a more flexible, resilient mindset that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease and emotional intelligence. As you practice reframing, you're likely to find that it becomes more natural over time. You might start catching yourself in the midst of negative interpretations and automatically generating alternatives. This shift can lead to a more balanced, optimistic outlook on life, contributing significantly to your overall happiness and well-being. As we conclude this chapter on reframing, remember that you're developing a powerful tool for emotional resilience and personal growth. By learning to consciously shape the narratives you create about your experiences, you're taking a significant step towards greater happiness and fulfillment. But reframing is just one piece of the puzzle. In our next chapter, we'll explore another crucial aspect of happiness, one that involves not just how you think, but how you act. Get ready to discover how the choices you make every day can dramatically shape your happiness in ways you might never have imagined. We're about to uncover the hidden power of decision-making in crafting a life of joy and purpose. Chapter 7: Decisions. As we journey deeper into the realm of lasting happiness, we find ourselves at a crossroads, a place where the paths we choose can profoundly shape our future joy and fulfillment. This chapter invites you to explore a fundamental aspect of human experience, one that we engage in countless times each day, often without even realizing its immense power to influence our happiness. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a vast, intricate tapestry. Each thread represents a choice you've made, weaving together to create the overall picture of your existence. Some threads are bold and prominent, representing major life decisions. Others are more subtle, the everyday choices that might seem insignificant in the moment. But step back, and you'll see that every single thread contributes to the beauty and complexity of the whole. What if you could become the master weaver of this tapestry? What if you had the power to select each thread with intention and purpose, crafting a life that truly reflects your deepest values and aspirations? This is the essence of what we're about to explore, a way of approaching the myriad choices in your life, both big and small, that can lead you towards greater happiness and fulfillment. As we begin to unpack this concept, you might find yourself wondering, aren't most of my decisions just automatic responses to my circumstances? How much control do I really have? These are natural questions, and the answers might surprise you. Consider this. From the moment you wake up to the time you go to sleep, you're making decisions. What time to get out of bed, what to wear, how to spend your free time, who to interact with, how to respond to challenges at work. Each of these is a choice, even if we don't always recognize it as such. And while some decisions might seem trivial in the moment, the cumulative effect of these choices over time can significantly impact our overall happiness and life satisfaction. Think about it. The decision to hit the snooze button once might not seem like a big deal, but if it becomes a habit that makes you consistently rush and feel stressed in the mornings, it can affect your mood and productivity for the entire day. Similarly, choosing to spend your evenings scrolling through social media instead of engaging in a hobby or connecting with loved ones might provide momentary distraction, but over time, it could lead to feelings of emptiness or disconnection. On the flip side, seemingly small positive choices, like taking a few minutes to practice mindfulness, expressing gratitude to a friend, or choosing to approach a challenge with optimism, can accumulate over time, leading to increased happiness and resilience. Of course, not all decisions are created equal. Some choices, like deciding on a career path or whether to end a relationship, can have more immediate and profound impacts on our lives. But the principle remains the same. Our decisions, both big and small, are the building blocks of our life experience, and by extension, our happiness. So how can we approach decision-making in a way that maximizes our chances for long-term happiness and fulfillment? The key lies in moving from autopilot to intentionality. Many of us make decisions based on habit, immediate emotions, or societal expectations, without really considering the long-term implications for our happiness. We might choose a job solely based on salary, without considering how it aligns with our values or allows for work-life balance. Or we might avoid having a difficult conversation out of fear, even though addressing the issue could lead to a stronger, more fulfilling relationship in the long run. Intentional decision-making involves pausing to consider our choices more deeply. It means asking ourselves, does this align with my values? How will this affect my happiness, not just now, but in the future? Am I making this choice out of fear or because it truly serves my well-being? This shift from autopilot to intentionality doesn't mean every decision needs to be a drawn-out, agonizing process. Rather, it's about developing a habit of quickly checking in with yourself before making choices, especially those that could significantly impact your happiness. One powerful tool in this process is the concept of delayed gratification. This idea, famously illustrated by the marshmallow test in children, suggests that the ability to forego immediate pleasure for the sake of greater future rewards is a key predictor of success and well-being in life. As adults, we face our own versions of the marshmallow test every day. Do we spend money on a luxury item now or save for a more secure financial future? Do we binge watch another episode of our favorite show or get a good night's sleep to feel more energized tomorrow? Do we avoid a difficult task or tackle it head-on to reduce stress in the long run? Choosing delayed gratification doesn't mean always denying yourself immediate pleasures. It's about weighing the short-term benefits against the long-term consequences and making conscious choices that align with your broader goals and values. Another crucial concept in decision-making for happiness is the idea of satisficing versus maximizing. In our modern world of endless options, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to make the perfect choice in every situation. We might spend hours researching the best restaurant for dinner or agonize over which smartphone to buy, always wondering if there might be an even better option out there. While this desire to maximize our choices might seem logical, research suggests that it often leads to less satisfaction, not more. People who constantly strive for the best option, maximizers, tend to experience more stress, anxiety, and regret than those who are willing to settle for options that are good enough, satisficers. This doesn't mean settling for mediocrity. Rather, it's about setting clear standards for what you need and want, and then being content when you find an option that meets those standards. This approach can lead to quicker decisions, less stress, and ultimately, greater satisfaction with your choices. So how can we put these ideas into practice? One powerful strategy is to develop a pause button habit. Whenever you're faced with a decision, especially if you're feeling emotional or pressured, take a moment to pause. This pause can be as short as taking a deep breath and counting to 10 for small decisions, or as long as sleeping on it for a night or more for bigger choices. This pause serves several purposes. First, it helps interrupt any impulsive reactions driven by immediate emotions or external pressures. Second, it gives you a chance to check in with your values and long-term goals. And third, it allows you to engage your rational thinking processes, considering potential consequences and alternatives. During this pause, you might find it helpful to use a pros and cons with a twist approach. Instead of just listing the immediate advantages and disadvantages of a choice, consider how these might play out over time. What are the pros and cons now, and what might they be a week, a month, or a year from now? For instance, if you're considering a job offer, the immediate pro might be a higher salary, while the con might be a longer commute. But looking further ahead, you might realize that the higher salary could lead to financial stress relief in the long term, while the longer commute might result in chronic fatigue and less time for personal pursuits. Another powerful technique is visualization. Take a moment to vividly imagine what your life might look like if you make a particular choice. How will you feel a week from now? A month? A year? This mental time travel can often reveal insights that aren't apparent when you're just thinking about the decision in the abstract. It's also important to recognize the role that fear and comfort play in our decision-making. Sometimes we make choices not because they're best for us, but because they're familiar or safe. Other times, we might make rash decisions out of a desire for novelty or excitement. By consciously examining our motivations, we can ensure that we're making choices aligned with our true desires and values, rather than just reacting to fear or boredom. As you practice more intentional decision-making, you might find it helpful to use a structured approach, especially for bigger or more complex choices. One such tool is the decision matrix for joy. Start by listing out your options, including the option to do nothing or maintain the status quo if that's applicable. Then, identify the key factors that matter for this decision's impact on your happiness. These might include alignment with your values, long-term benefits, short-term benefits, potential risks, effects on important relationships, financial impact, stress levels, and any other factors specific to the situation. Create a table with your options as rows and these factors as columns. Then, for each option, rate or make notes about how it measures up on each factor. This visual representation can help you see more clearly which options align best with what truly matters to you. After completing the matrix, take a step back and look at the overall picture. Which option seems to score best on the factors that are most important to you? Are there any clear winners or losers? Any surprising insights? It's important to note that this matrix isn't about simply tallying up scores and going with the highest number. Rather, it's a tool to help you think through your options more systematically and ensure you're considering all relevant factors. After this logical analysis, don't forget to do a gut check. How do you feel emotionally about each option? Sometimes our intuition can pick up on factors that our conscious mind hasn't fully processed. If your gut feeling strongly contradicts what the matrix suggests, it's worth exploring why. You might realize you've overlooked an important factor, or that one of the factors matters more to you than you initially thought. Remember, the goal of this process isn't to remove emotion from decision-making entirely. Our emotions provide valuable information and are an important part of our happiness. The aim is to balance emotional and rational considerations, ensuring that our choices align with both our feelings and our deeper values and goals. For decisions that don't require an immediate answer, consider using the 1-week decision test. Choose a decision you've been mulling over and commit to not making a final choice for 1 week. Use this time to thoroughly explore and analyze your options using the techniques we've discussed. Spend the first couple of days gathering information and advice. Use the middle of the week to apply the decision matrix and reflect on how each option aligns with your values. Then, try living with each option for a day in your mind. How does it feel to imagine having made that choice? At the end of the week, make your decision. Notice how you feel. Do you have a greater sense of confidence and calm compared to how you might have felt making a quick choice? In the weeks following your decision, reflect on the outcome. Are you satisfied with the choice you made? Use these reflections to continually refine your decision-making process. As you practice these techniques, you'll likely find that making choices becomes easier and more satisfying. You'll develop a clearer sense of what truly matters to you and become more adept at aligning your decisions with your values and long-term happiness goals. Remember, the aim isn't to make perfect decisions every time. That's neither possible nor necessary. The goal is to make choices more intentionally, with a clear focus on what contributes to your lasting happiness and well-being. By becoming more conscious of the power of your decisions and developing strategies to make choices that align with your deepest values and aspirations, you're taking a significant step towards crafting a life of greater joy and fulfillment. You're becoming the master weaver of your life's tapestry, choosing each thread with care and purpose. As we conclude this exploration of decision-making, consider how this newfound awareness might change the choices you make going forward. How might your daily life shift if every decision, no matter how small, was viewed as an opportunity to steer towards greater happiness? But decision-making is just one piece of the happiness puzzle. In our next chapter, we'll delve into a realm that shapes our lives in ways both subtle and profound, a force so powerful that mastering it can transform not just individual moments, but the entire trajectory of your life. Get ready to uncover the hidden influence that guides your actions, molds your experiences, and holds the key to sustainable joy. Chapter 8: Habits. As we venture deeper into our exploration of lasting happiness, we find ourselves at the threshold of a powerful revelation, one that has the potential to transform not just moments of joy, but the very fabric of our daily lives. We're about to uncover a force so subtle, yet so pervasive, that it shapes our experiences, molds our character, and ultimately determines much of our happiness without us even realizing it. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a vast, flowing river. The course of this river, where it goes, how fast it flows, what it carries along its journey, is not determined by grand sweeping gestures or occasional bursts of effort. Instead, it's shaped by countless small actions, repeated day after day, gradually carving out the path that your life follows. These small, repeated actions are the hidden architects of our existence. They work silently in the background, influencing our thoughts, our emotions, our relationships, and our achievements. They have the power to elevate us to new heights of well-being or to keep us trapped in cycles of discontent. What are these mysterious forces that wield such influence over our lives? As you might have guessed, we're talking about habits, the routines and behaviors that we engage in regularly, often without conscious thought. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if we could harness the power of habits, not just to improve our productivity or health, but to actively cultivate happiness? What if we could design our daily routines in such a way that joy becomes not just an occasional visitor, but a constant companion in our lives? This is the transformative potential we're about to explore. We're going to delve into the science of habit formation and discover how we can use this knowledge to create what we might call happiness habits, daily practices that, over time, can significantly boost our overall well-being and life satisfaction. As we begin to unpack this concept, you might find yourself wondering, can happiness really be habitual? Isn't it more about big life events or circumstances? These are natural questions, and the answers might surprise you. While it's true that major life events can impact our happiness, research suggests that a significant portion of our overall well-being, as much as 40% according to some studies, is influenced by our daily intentional activities. In other words, it's not just what happens to us that determines our happiness, but what we choose to do regularly. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to maintain a positive outlook even in challenging circumstances, while others struggle to find joy even when things are going well? Often, the difference lies not in their external circumstances, but in their habitual ways of thinking and behaving. This insight opens up a world of possibilities. If we can shape our happiness through our daily habits, it means we have far more control over our well-being than we might have thought. We're not at the mercy of external events or fleeting emotions. We can actively cultivate happiness through the choices we make each day. But how exactly do habits influence our happiness? To understand this, we need to delve a bit into the science of habit formation. Our brains are incredibly efficient organs, always looking for ways to conserve energy. One way they do this is by turning repeated behaviors into habits, automatic routines that we can perform with minimal conscious thought. This process involves the formation of neural pathways in our brains. The more we repeat a behavior, the stronger these pathways become, making the behavior more automatic over time. This process applies not just to physical actions, but to thought patterns as well. If we consistently practice gratitude, for instance, our brains become more adept at noticing things to be grateful for. If we habitually look for the positive aspects of situations, it becomes easier to maintain an optimistic outlook even in challenging times. Understanding this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections, is crucial because it means that happiness is not just a fleeting emotion, but a skill that can be developed through practice. Just as we can train our bodies to become stronger or more flexible through regular exercise, we can train our minds to become more resilient, more appreciative, and ultimately, happier. But here's the key: this training needs to be consistent. One-off attempts at positive thinking or sporadic efforts to practice mindfulness, while beneficial, won't create lasting change in the same way that daily habits can. It's the regularity, the repetition, that really makes the difference. This is where the concept of the habit loop comes in handy. Every habit, whether it's beneficial or detrimental, follows a similar pattern. There's a cue that triggers the behavior, the routine, the behavior itself, and a reward that reinforces the habit. By understanding and manipulating this loop, we can create new habits that support our happiness and well-being. For instance, let's say you want to develop a habit of daily gratitude reflection. The cue might be finishing your evening routine. The behavior would be taking a few moments to think of 3 things you're grateful for. The reward could be the positive feelings that come from this reflection, or perhaps allowing yourself to read a favorite book after completing the practice. By consciously designing these habit loops, we can make happiness-promoting behaviors more automatic and consistent in our lives. Over time, these small daily practices can shift our baseline mood upward, making us more resilient to stress and more capable of experiencing joy on a regular basis. But creating new habits isn't always easy. Our brains are wired to resist change, and it's all too easy to fall back into familiar patterns, even if they don't serve us well. This is where critical thinking comes into play. By applying logical analysis to our habit formation efforts, we can set ourselves up for success. This means being realistic about what we can achieve, understanding our own tendencies and limitations, and designing our habits in a way that works with our natural inclinations rather than against them. One key principle in this regard is to start small. It's tempting to try to overhaul our entire life at once, but this approach often leads to burnout and failure. Instead, focus on creating one small, manageable habit at a time. Want to start meditating? Begin with just 2 minutes a day. Interested in journaling? Start by writing 1 sentence each night. The goal here isn't to see dramatic results immediately, but to establish consistency. A 2-minute meditation practice that you do every day is far more beneficial in the long run than an hour-long session that you only manage once a month. Remember, we're playing the long game here. We're looking to create lasting change, not quick fixes. Another crucial aspect of successful habit formation is using effective triggers or cues. Our days are already full of routines and patterns. By piggybacking new habits onto existing ones, we can make them easier to remember and implement. For example, you might decide to practice a moment of mindfulness right after you turn off your morning alarm, or to do a quick gratitude reflection while brushing your teeth at night. It's also important to consider the role of immediate rewards in habit formation. While many happiness habits, like exercise or learning a new skill, have long-term benefits, our brains are wired to respond more strongly to immediate gratification. By building in small, immediate rewards for our new habits, we can make them more appealing and easier to stick to. This doesn't mean you need to bribe yourself with treats for every good behavior. The reward can be as simple as taking a moment to acknowledge your effort, giving yourself a mental pat on the back, or marking your progress on a habit tracker. The key is to create a positive association with the habit, something that gives you a little boost of satisfaction each time you complete it. As you begin to implement these strategies, you might find it helpful to focus on a few key areas that are particularly impactful for happiness. Gratitude practices, for instance, have been shown to have a significant positive effect on well-being. This could be as simple as noting 3 things you're grateful for each day or writing a weekly gratitude letter. Physical activity is another powerful happiness habit. Regular exercise has been shown to have mood-boosting effects, comparable to some antidepressants. The key here is to find a form of movement that you enjoy and can realistically incorporate into your routine. It doesn't have to be intense. Even a short daily walk can make a difference. Mindfulness or meditation practices can also be valuable happiness habits. These don't have to be lengthy or formal. Even a few minutes of focused breathing or present moment awareness can help reduce stress and increase overall well-being. Social connection is another crucial area. Making a habit of reaching out to friends or family regularly, even if it's just a quick message or call, can significantly boost your happiness. Humans are social creatures, and consistent positive interactions with others are vital for our emotional health. Continuous learning or personal growth can also contribute to long-term happiness. This could involve reading, pursuing a hobby, or learning a new skill. The sense of progress and achievement that comes from consistent growth can be a powerful mood elevator. Finally, acts of kindness have been shown to increase happiness not just for the recipient, but for the giver as well. Making a habit of performing small acts of kindness regularly can create a positive feedback loop of good feelings. As you consider which habits to incorporate into your life, it's important to approach the process systematically. Here's a framework you can use to create a habit formation plan. Start by choosing one specific habit you want to establish. Be as concrete as possible. Meditate for 5 minutes each morning is better than be more mindful. Next, define the cue or trigger for this habit. When exactly will you do it? After what existing routine? Make this as specific as possible to increase the likelihood of remembering and following through. Then, clearly define the routine or behavior itself. What exactly will you do? Where will you do it? What preparations might be needed? Don't forget to plan a reward. What will you do to celebrate or reinforce the habit, especially in the early stages when it's not yet automatic? Create a system for tracking your progress. This could be as simple as marking off days on a calendar or using a habit tracking app. Finally, set a date to review and adjust your plan. After a few weeks, assess how it's going and make any necessary tweaks. To put all of this into practice, consider taking on a 30-day happiness habit challenge. Choose one habit you'd like to implement and commit to practicing it daily for a month. Write down your commitment, prepare your environment to make the habit as easy as possible, and use a tracker to monitor your progress. Reflect on your experience at regular intervals, perhaps weekly, noting any benefits you've observed and addressing any challenges that have come up. At the end of the 30 days, evaluate how the habit has affected your happiness and decide whether to continue, adjust, or try something new. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress and consistency. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on track the next day. The power of habits lies in their cumulative effect over time, not in flawless execution. As you embark on this journey of cultivating happiness habits, you're not just changing your daily routines, you're reshaping the very landscape of your life. You're creating a foundation for lasting well-being, one small action at a time. But habits, powerful as they are just one piece of the happiness puzzle. In our next chapter, we'll explore a quality that can transform how you navigate life's inevitable challenges and setbacks. Get ready to discover a force within you that has the power to turn obstacles into opportunities and adversity into growth. We're about to unlock the secret to bouncing back stronger, no matter what life throws your way. Chapter 9, Resilience. As we reach the final chapter of our journey towards lasting happiness, we find ourselves facing perhaps the most crucial aspect of all, the ability to maintain our joy and well-being even when life throws its inevitable challenges our way. We're about to explore a quality that doesn't just protect our happiness, but can actually deepen it through the very act of overcoming adversity. Imagine for a moment that your happiness is like a beautiful garden you've carefully cultivated throughout this book. You've planted seeds of positive habits, nurtured them with intentional practices, and watch them bloom into a vibrant landscape of well-being. But what happens when a storm hits this garden? How do you ensure that all your hard work isn't washed away by the first strong wind or heavy rain? This is where resilience comes in. Resilience is like a sturdy fence around your garden of happiness, protecting it from the harshest elements while still allowing it to grow and thrive. It's the quality that allows you to weather life's storms without losing the beauty and vitality you've worked so hard to create. But resilience is more than just a protective barrier. It's a dynamic force that can actually help your garden of happiness grow stronger and more diverse through challenges. Just as some plants grow more robust when exposed to wind, our happiness can become more deeply rooted and expansive when we learn to navigate difficulties with grace and strength. As we begin to unpack this concept, you might find yourself wondering, is resilience something you're born with, or can it be developed? And how exactly does it contribute to lasting happiness? These are excellent questions, and the answers might surprise and inspire you. Resilience, at its core, is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, adapt to change, and keep going in the face of adversity. It's not about avoiding difficulties or pretending they don't affect us. Rather, it's about developing the capacity to recover from challenges, learn from them, and often grow stronger because of them. Think of resilience like a rubber ball. When it hits the ground, it doesn't stay down, it bounces back up. Similarly, resilient individuals may feel the impact of difficult events, but they have the ability to regain their emotional footing and move forward. This bounce-back ability is crucial for lasting happiness because life inevitably includes ups and downs. If our happiness depended solely on everything going smoothly, we'd be in for a rocky emotional ride. Instead, resilience allows us to maintain a sense of well-being even when facing challenges and to return to a positive state more quickly after difficult experiences. But here's the really exciting part. Resilience isn't a fixed trait that you either have or don't have. It's a set of skills and mindsets that can be developed and strengthened over time. By understanding the components of resilience and practicing specific techniques, you can build your capacity to handle life's challenges while protecting and even enhancing your happiness. One key aspect of resilience is how we explain events to ourselves, particularly negative ones. This is known as our explanatory style. A pessimistic explanatory style tends to see setbacks as personal, it's all my fault. Pervasive, this ruins everything. And permanent, things will always be this bad. This style can lead to feelings of helplessness and prolonged unhappiness. On the other hand, an optimistic explanatory style views setbacks as impersonal or circumstantial. This happened due to specific factors, not because I'm a failure. Specific, this is a challenge in one area, but other parts of my life are still good. And temporary, this is difficult now, but it won't last forever. This perspective promotes resilience by maintaining hope and motivating constructive action. For example, imagine two people who don't get a job they applied for. The person with a pessimistic style might think, I'm not good enough for any job, personal. My career is over, pervasive. I'll never succeed, permanent. The person with an optimistic style might think, the competition was tough, circumstantial. This job wasn't the right fit, but I still have other opportunities, specific. I can learn from this and do better next time, temporary. The good news is that we can consciously shift our explanatory style to be more optimistic and resilient. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or forcing positivity. It's about finding a balanced, constructive way to interpret events that acknowledges difficulties while maintaining hope and a sense of agency. Another crucial aspect of resilience is balancing emotional processing with problem solving. When faced with a challenge, it's important to allow yourself to feel and express your emotions. Trying to suppress feelings often backfires, leading to more stress in the long run. However, it's equally important not to get stuck in those emotions, letting them spiral into catastrophic thinking. A resilient approach involves acknowledging your feelings, perhaps through techniques like deep breathing or writing them out, and then shifting into a more analytical mode. Ask yourself, what exactly is the problem I'm facing? What aspects of this situation can I control or influence? What steps can I take to improve things, even if just a little? This problem-solving mindset is empowering. It moves you from feeling like a victim of circumstances to being an active participant in finding solutions. Even if you can't completely solve the problem, identifying small actions you can take can provide a sense of progress and control. Remember, resilience isn't about tackling everything at once. It's often built through small steps. Choose one action you can take today, however minor, that addresses some aspect of the challenge you're facing. This could be as simple as reaching out to a friend for support or researching options for dealing with your situation. Each small step forward builds momentum and confidence in your ability to handle difficulties. A powerful resilience technique is to adopt a learning mindset in the face of adversity. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How might this challenge help me grow? This doesn't mean pretending that negative events are good, but rather finding ways to extract value even from difficult situations. For instance, a setback at work might teach you about areas where you need to develop new skills. A relationship conflict might reveal important things about your communication style or needs. By focusing on learning and growth, you transform challenges from pure negatives into opportunities for personal development. Maintaining perspective is another crucial element of resilience. When we're in the midst of a difficult situation, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. We might feel like the current problem is all-encompassing and permanent. Resilience involves reminding ourselves that most difficulties are temporary and specific, not permanent and pervasive. Practice telling yourself, "This too shall pass." Recall past challenges that seemed overwhelming at the time, but that you eventually overcame. Remind yourself that a setback in one area of life doesn't negate the good things in other areas. This perspective-taking doesn't eliminate the difficulty, but it can prevent it from overwhelming your entire sense of well-being. Gratitude can be a powerful tool for resilience, even or especially in hard times. It might seem counterintuitive to focus on gratitude when things are tough, but finding things to appreciate can provide a psychological lifeline. This doesn't mean ignoring or minimizing problems, but rather ensuring that difficulties don't blind you to the good that still exists in your life. Even in crisis, try to identify one or two things you're grateful for. It could be as simple as appreciating a moment of kindness from a stranger or feeling thankful for your own strength in facing the challenge. This practice helps maintain a more balanced view of your life, preventing negative events from completely dominating your perspective. To put these ideas into practice, it can be helpful to have a structured approach, a resilience toolkit you can turn to when facing difficulties. One such tool is the ABCDE Thought Challenge, adapted from Dr. Martin Seligman's work on learned optimism. A stands for adversity. Clearly describe the challenging situation you're facing. B is for beliefs. Identify the thoughts and beliefs you have about this adversity. C represents consequences. Note how these beliefs make you feel and act. D is for disputation. Challenge those beliefs. Are they entirely true? What evidence contradicts them? What alternative perspectives might be more balanced or constructive? E stands for energization. After disputing negative beliefs, notice how your feelings and motivation change. This often leads to more positive emotions and a greater sense of capability. Another valuable framework is the dichotomy of control, inspired by Stoic philosophy. When facing a challenge, draw two columns. In one, list aspects of the situation you can control or influence. In the other, list things outside your control. Focus your energy on the items in the first column and practice acceptance for those in the second. This helps direct your efforts productively while reducing stress over things you can't change. Self-care is a crucial but often overlooked aspect of resilience. During tough times, it's easy to neglect basic needs, but maintaining good sleep, nutrition, exercise, and social connection is vital for emotional resilience. Create a simple self-care checklist to ensure you're taking care of your physical and emotional needs, especially when under stress. Visualization can be a powerful tool for building resilience. Imagine yourself successfully navigating a challenge using the strategies we've discussed. See yourself staying calm, thinking constructively, and taking positive action. This mental rehearsal can boost your confidence and prepare you to handle real-life difficulties more effectively. Finally, create a resilience mantra or affirmation that resonates with you. This could be something like, "I've overcome challenges before, and I can do it again," or "This is tough, but so am I." Use this mantra as a quick way to shift into a more resilient mindset when facing difficulties. As we conclude this chapter and this book, remember that resilience, like happiness itself, is a skill that can be developed with practice. Each challenge you face is an opportunity to strengthen this skill, to prove to yourself that you can navigate life's ups and downs while maintaining your core of happiness and well-being. By cultivating resilience, you're not just protecting the happiness you've built, you're creating a foundation for deeper, more lasting joy. You're developing the ability to find meaning and growth in all of life's experiences, both the pleasant and the difficult. This is the ultimate key to lasting happiness, not the absence of problems, but the ability to thrive despite and even because of them. As you move forward from this book, carry with you the knowledge that you have within you the power to create and maintain your own happiness. You have the tools to shape your thoughts, your habits, your responses to life's events in ways that promote lasting well-being. You have the ability to bounce back from setbacks, to learn and grow from challenges, and to find joy even in the midst of difficulty. Your journey towards lasting happiness doesn't end here. It's a lifelong adventure of growth, discovery, and resilience. But armed with the insights and strategies from this book, you're well equipped to navigate this journey with confidence, grace, and an ever-deepening capacity for joy. As you embark on this journey of lasting happiness, remember that every challenge is an opportunity to apply what you've learned and strengthen your resilience. But true mastery of happiness requires more than just knowledge. It demands thoughtful application. Have you ever wondered why, despite understanding these principles, you sometimes struggle to put them into practice? The key lies in a fundamental skill that underpins all aspects of well-being and decision-making. Curious about what this essential ability might be? Discover the missing piece that can elevate your pursuit of happiness to new heights in the audiobook Think Before You Act, Mastering Critical Thinking for Thoughtful Action. Tap the center of the video now to continue your transformation journey.